country becomes on Chinese investment and trade, the more susceptible they are to coercion and retribution when they act outside of Beijing's wishes. The political and economic leverage China is gaining by carrying out this strategy has begun eroding the sovereignty of many nations.
A warning today from Defense Secretary Mark Esper, reinforcing what I've been saying for a long time, really over the last 20 years. And I added in a tweet, 100% correct, and those that depend on China for technology will find themselves captive. Watch the AI, artificial intelligence, and data gathering. Joining me now, Mike Pillsbury, China expert, author of The 100-Year Marathon. Michael, why is what the Secretary of Defense said today so important?
Well, it's historic. It's very important, as you say. It's the choice of words. To explicitly warn other countries that China is going to compromise your sovereignty and to warn them not to become dependent on China. Or more elegantly, the way Mark Esper phrased it, the more you become dependent, the easier it's going to be for them to coerce you in the future. This has never happened before. Secretaries of Defense have been very cautious about talking about the China threat. In fact, for decades, you mentioned 20 years that you've been struggling on this policy. For 2 decades, they would never even say China's a threat. They would say concern or challenge or competitor. So this is really quite something. Mark Esper's gone
He
this
went
far.
on and said, I would caution my friends in Europe, this is not a problem in some distant land that does not affect you. Italy, most recently, took a huge investment. I think it was $16 billion. For Italy, it's a lot of money from the Chinese. But we're not talking just building bridges and airports. We're talking about a technological domination.
That's right.
And especially artificial intelligence. I know some people who are working in this field. They are just frantic that the Trump administration is not doing enough on the artificial intelligence front vis-a-vis China. How concerned are you about this?
I'm very concerned. Artificial intelligence is the core to all future weapons systems. The Chinese appear to be ahead of us in some aspects of it. They may have stolen some of it, but they've also made massive investments by the billions in various aspects.
With money that we gave them from this huge trade deficit that we have.
Yes, and American citizens actually work on these projects inside China. You know, Angela Merkel visited China today. She is talking about high-tech cooperation with China.
I mean, just give it away, Germany. Give your sovereignty away.
The Germans are quite advanced themselves in artificial intelligence.
Not for long. Once they get like the Chinese in the door, right? What happens when the Chinese come in the door? They gather the data. They have the back end in China. They have the control, do they not, Michael?
Yes, they do. But Angela Merkel doesn't see it that way because the role of business in our country, the role of Wall Street, is still very powerful. And they have not changed their minds that China is our friend and there's no threat. So the 20-year battle you're referring to that both you and I have been involved in, it's not over yet. China still has many supporters.
But what about the Democrats who say, oh, Trump needs to work with the Europeans on the China issue? Merkel today said, we have to hope for a peaceful resolution in Hong Kong. They want to sell their stuff to China, right? They want this tariff stuff done so they can sell more stuff to China. That's it.
Well, one of the easy competitions to measure is Airbus versus Boeing. Airbus heavily subsidized by the Germans. So there's a whole series of areas where your benefits, especially if President Trump succeeds.
France, right? Airbus is subsidized. France.
But the Germans are involved in it. So the key thing is, if President Trump wins the trade war, the Europeans can slip in afterwards and get the benefits.
Mike Pillsbury, always great to have you with us. And coming up, a warning. This next segment will probably trigger all the left people.